All right, this hearing will come to order. And we do have some business which we will proceed to in just a moment. But the Speaker of the House has honored us with his presence today. And I do believe he has a few words of introduction. And then, Mr. Speaker, you are welcome to stay for the rest of the morning, if you like. But if you need to attend to other duties, you are certainly encouraged to go do that with haste. So you are now recognized, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Wicker, really appreciate it. And I would love to be with you all for the rest of the day.
I know it. I know it.
And I want to thank Ranking Member Reed and all the members of the committee. It really is my honor to be here. And I came this morning with the privilege of introducing my former staffer, my trusted friend, and a great American patriot, Jules J. Hurst III, who sits here to my left. He is being considered, of course, for Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. I wish I had brought a speech for some of the other distinguished gentlemen sitting at this table, because I'm a fan of all of them. And we're blessed as a nation to have such highly qualified people willing to serve in these fateful times that we're in. It's great to see Jay's wife, Beth, sitting behind me, and their children here today. They have a large brood. The Hurst family recently grew again, and as Jay and Beth welcome their fifth child, young George here. He's the youngest person in attendance. He was just born a few weeks ago, and good-looking kid, just like his daddy. Congratulations to the beautiful family. This has been quite a month for the Hurst family. Jay joined my congressional office in January of 2022 as a defense fellow, and while he was only on loan for 1 year, he instantly became part of our family. He's like family to us. He worked long hours, he engaged with my constituents and local businesses, and he simplified complex military issues for our staff. My district is Louisiana's 4th congressional district, and it's one of the most important military districts in America because we're home to Barksdale Air Force Base, the home of the B-52s. We've got the Global Strike Command there. 2/3 of the nuclear triad is commanded about 15 miles from my driveway. We also have Fort Polk and the Joint Readiness Training Center. And many other military assets like Camp Menden and others. So having a qualified defense fellow is an essential component of what we do. And Jay was the best we've ever had. And for those who don't know, defense fellowships are only 1-year posts. And despite that, Jay planted deep roots in my office and with all of our personnel and everyone involved. It was not uncommon for me to return to the office late after voting on many nights to find Jay there holding court with interns and staff. He mentored the people in and around my group and all my employees about everything, personal responsibility, finances, whatever advice they may have needed at the time. And he became the indispensable man for us. And it's this type of man, this type of leader that Jay is. He enriched our office with great camaraderie and valuable insight and willingness to go above and beyond every single day. And while working in my office and afterwards, Jay published many scholarly articles on topics like great power competition, autonomous systems, artificial intelligence, and warfare in several respected publications. I learned a lot reading what he wrote, and I don't know how he had time to do it. I'm really not sure because he's very prolific, but he wrote and he published often. His commitment to continuing education in his personal capacity should send a signal to this committee that Jay will bring the same level of dedication and the relentless quest for excellence to the U.S. Army. Jay eventually left my office to return to the Pentagon, but when I was elected Speaker of the House in October 2023, I called and begged him to come back. I needed his counsel and steady hand, and he was willing to do that. So he returned to my office and became my legislative director and a defense advisor to the Speaker's office in some very difficult times, as we all know. With hot wars burning around the globe, Jay's insight and counsel were invaluable. Before he served with me, he served as an Army officer, government civilian on the Army staff within the Joint Special Operations Command Intelligence Brigade at the 75th Ranger Regiment and within U.S. Central Command. As both a military officer and civilian, he deployed to Afghanistan 4 times as a senior intelligence officer for a Joint Special Operations Task Force. He also supported the initial stand-up of Project Maven, which is the Algorithmic Warfare Cross-Functional Team. I have a hard time even pronouncing that, okay? This guy's really smart. He continues to serve in the Army Reserve as a FA-59 Army strategist. Following the election last year, I had a feeling that I wouldn't be able to keep him much longer. His talents were needed, his expertise, his dedication to the men and women of our armed forces were needed at a higher level, and they took him. And that's why I wasn't surprised when Jay was asked to serve on the DoD landing team and to perform the duties of Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, and now to serve, with the blessing of this committee and the support of the Senate, as Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. I have no doubt in his ability to do an outstanding job serving the men and women of the U.S. Army, and it is my great honor and true privilege to support his nomination today. I want to thank you again, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Reed, and all of you for the privilege of introducing Jay. And I strongly encourage every member of this committee to support his confirmation, and let's put Jay to work for the whole country. Thank you.
Thank you. Quite an impressive.
Mr. Chairman, do we get to question this witness?
No.
Well, go ahead. No. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You are you're excused with our blessing, and go in haste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Proceed in haste. We are here also pursuant to a notice about an item of business. A quorum is now present, and we are in order for that purpose. I ask the committee to consider a list of 7,861 pending military nominations. Included in this list are nominations of Vice Admiral Charles B. Cooper, the second USN to be Admiral and Commander, U.S. Central Command, and Lieutenant General Alexis G. Grinkowicz, USAF to be General and Commander, U.S. European Command, and Supreme Allied Commander, Europe. All of these nominations have been before the committee the required length of time. Is there a motion to proceed to these 7,861 pending military nominations to the Senate favorably?
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and the motion carries. Thank you all, and this executive session is now adjourned. And we return now to the hearing portion of this committee, and we are here to consider the nominations of Mr. Hung Cao to be Undersecretary of the Navy, Mr. Michael F. Dodd to be Assistant Secretary of Defense for Critical Technologies, Mr. Jules W. Hurst III to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, Mr. Brent G. Ingraham to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology, and Mr. William J. Gillis to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Installations, Energy, and Environment. I welcome our nominees and their families. I'm grateful for their willingness to serve our nation. The United States faces a very dangerous threat environment, and we need people like this to step up now more than ever. Mr. Hung Cao has been nominated to serve as Undersecretary of the Navy. He's a 25-year Navy veteran with industry experience. As Undersecretary, he would play a critical role in the daily management of the Navy and Marine Corps. And there will be plenty to keep him busy, revitalizing shipbuilding, improving maintenance to meet 80% surge readiness, and enhancing the welfare of our sailors and Marines. His leadership and willingness to partner with Congress will be essential for a mission-ready Navy. Mr. Michael Dodd has been nominated for the position of Assistant Secretary of Defense for Critical Technologies. If confirmed, Mr. Dodd will be the first individual to hold this position officially. Mr. Dodd brings experience at the Defense Innovation Unit and in thought leadership, particularly in microelectronics. I'm interested to hear what actions Mr. Dodd believes we should take to make progress in delivering our most critical technologies to the battlefield. Mr. J. Hurst has been nominated to serve as Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. Recent transformations in the Army will leave him to manage a workforce that is leaner, more agile, and more effective, while also ensuring soldiers and their families receive the support they need. Mr. Hurst is a seasoned Army Reserve officer with experience as a government contractor in civil service at the DoD and in national security roles on Capitol Hill. I look forward to hearing his plans for strengthening the force and supporting those who serve. Mr. Brent Ingraham has been nominated to serve as the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. He has devoted nearly 2 decades of service to the Department of Defense, including his current role as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Platform and Weapons Portfolio Management. I look forward to hearing Mr. Ingram's plan in his new role to ensure the Army stays on track. And finally, Mr. Jordan Gillis has been nominated to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Energy, Installations, and Environment. As a former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Sustainment, his experience will be crucial to ensuring the Department of the Army follows the law in implementing minimum plant replacement value of 4% starting in 2030. I hope to hear today from Mr. Gillis on this issue, along with many other facility sustainment concerns. With that, I recognize my colleague, Ranking Member Reed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to our witnesses, and congratulations on your nominations. Also like to welcome your families who are with you today and have been with you throughout your careers, I'm sure. Also like to thank the Speaker for his thoughtful comments. Mr. Cowell, you are nominated to the second highest civilian position in the Department of the Navy. If confirmed, one of your most important priorities must be assisting the Secretary in growing and maintaining the fleet. For several years, the Department has fallen well short of its shipbuilding and deployment plans. A number of vessels, including an aircraft carrier, multiple destroyers, and the Virginia and Columbia-class submarine programs, are facing delays of more than a year. And I'm interested to know how you would address these programs and their unique challenges, and how you would work to get them back on schedule and on budget. And Mr. Cowell, while I appreciate your distinguished service in the Navy, I'm concerned about your recent record of controversial positions. In recent years, you've made a number of partisan and divisive statements, including disparaging certain Navy personnel, sharply criticizing U.S. allies, and advocating for the release of convicted January 6th individuals. Mr. Cowell, if confirmed, you would represent all military and civilian personnel in the Department of the Navy, including those who disagree with these statements. And I hope you will take the opportunity today to explain your positions and assure this committee of your commitment to uphold the Navy's values, which are centered in the Constitution. Ms. Dodd, you are nominated to be Assistant Secretary of Defense for Critical Technologies. If confirmed, you will be responsible for assessing and coordinating the emergency technologies needed by our military, allies, and partners, as well as our adversaries. In particular, you will need to focus on maintaining our edge over China and Russia in areas such as artificial intelligence, hypersonics, quantum computing, and biotechnology. Much of this can only be accomplished by improving the Department's ability to overcome the so-called Valley of Death and turn research innovations into acquisition programs and ultimately into real operational capabilities. Your experience in the Pentagon's innovation community should serve you very well in this role. Mr. Hurst, you are nominated to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. If confirmed, you would serve as the principal civilian officer with supervision over all Army personnel policies. Indeed, our Army's greatest asset is its people, and the Assistant Secretary should be squarely focused on retaining and supporting soldiers and their families. Mr. Hurst, you are currently performing the duties of the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, and some of your duties directed by the Secretary have been to decrease the workforce. Now, in the Department of the Army, you'll have to ensure you can operate with a decreased workforce and make sure that the reductions are sensible and add to the force and not subtract from them. Again, your experience, I think, will bode very well, and if not, you'll be criticized repeatedly by Henry. That's his new son. Mr. Ingraham, you are nominated to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. If confirmed, you will oversee research, development, acquisition, program statement, and logistics activities while the Army begins a significant transformation You will be responsible for balancing the need for rigorous management with the imperative to move quickly and use smart acquisition strategies. To achieve this, it will be necessary to strengthen the Army's workforce and improve data systems. You have considerable experience in the Pentagon coordinating air, surface, cyber, and electronic warfare systems. And I would ask for your thoughts on how the Army can better develop and field these platforms. Finally, Mr. Gillis, you are nominated to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Installations, Energy, and Environment. If confirmed, you will be responsible for managing the Army's physical footprint. I am particularly concerned that the Army recently reprogrammed more than $1 billion from its facilities account to pay for Southwest border operations at the request of DHS and Customs and Border Patrol. Press reports indicate that this money was originally intended to improve enlisted barracks and other infrastructure repairs. In addition, extreme weather events have cost the Army billions of dollars in damage and recovery costs, which compromise soldier readiness. If confirmed, Mr. Gillis, you will need to be disciplined in staunchly defending and aligning the Army's budget to the challenges of the future, including prioritizing soldier care and readiness above all else. Again, thank you to our nominees. I look forward to your testimony, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Reed. And now we begin with opening statements. Members are, our witnesses and nominees are asked to limit their opening statements to no more than 5 minutes. And Mr. Cow, we will recognize you first for your opening statement.
Good morning, Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, Senators of the Armed Services Committee. I would like to thank President Trump for trusting me and nominating me as Undersecretary of the Navy. This is the absolute honor of my life.
Well, it appears that I missed a step, and Senator Scott wishes to say a few words
nice.
of introduction.
All right, thank
So
you,
sorry.
Chairman. First, an honor to introduce my good friend, Captain Hunkow, President Trump's nominee to serve as the Undersecretary of the Navy. He is supported today by his wife, April, and their 5 children, Gabriel, Grace, Claire, Evelyn, and Liam.
I don't need to know that.
As a Navy veteran and the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Subcommittee on Sea Power, I am fully committed to ensuring the readiness of our sea forces. I can say with confidence that Hung is supremely qualified to fill this position, and that his skills, character, and expertise will make him a highly effective Undersecretary of the Navy. As well as his qualifications for the role, Captain Cow has a drive for public service that comes from his experience of living the American dream. Hung and his family escaped from Vietnam when he was young and came to the United States as refugees. While his parents had hoped he'd become a doctor, he chose a different path of service and joined the United States Navy, go Navy, as a special operations officer in order to serve the country that had given him and his family so much. The same drive to serve shaped his life and career in both the public and private sectors. Throughout his career, Captain Cow led large organizations in the military and in industry with proven success. He brings experience with budgeting, finance, and operational background in the Navy and in the private sector that will be critical as we push for a stronger, more capable Navy that uses taxpayer dollars efficiently to meet the demands of an increasingly complex and dangerous future. This will benefit our work together to support President Trump and Defense Secretary Hegseth's vision for our military and our country. I have known Captain Cow to be an inspirational military leader, a tested manager, an individual of unwavering integrity. Both in the Navy and private sector, he has built successful teams, inspired others, and shown he is willing to cut through unnecessary bureaucracy and make the hard decisions that prioritize long-term success. His experience in combat also demonstrates his ability to remain calm under pressure and deliver tangible results, all talents critical in the Department of the Navy. Importantly, Captain Cow is also deeply committed to her service members. He knows that leadership is about people, ensuring that the people in his chain of command have the trust and tools necessary to complete their missions. I look forward to hearing from Captain Cow about his vision for the Navy and how he plans to support Secretary Fiedling as they work to fulfill President Trump's vision of peace through strength. I'm honored to recommend him to the committee and urge his speedy confirmation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Senator, and I again apologize for getting out of order there. Mr. Cow, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senators, thank you again, and thank you for President Trump. I'm joined today by my beautiful wife of more than 26 years. April is the mother of our 5 children. Midshipman First Class Gabriel Cow, a senior at the United States Naval Academy. Grace, Claire, Evelyn, and Liam. Like so many military spouses, April endured multiple moves across the country and overseas. She gave birth to our first child while I was deployed for the invasion of Iraq. During my deployments, she was both mother and father, as well as handyman, nurse, teacher, and coach. And like all military spouses, her heart stopped and she prayed every time there was a knock at the door or every time the phone rang. Thank you, honey, for standing by my sides all of these years as we served the nation. You are the love of my life. I would like to give praise and glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, without whom I would not be here today. April 30th of this year marked the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon, when my family and I fled Vietnam. America gave us hope and opportunity, and I've tried to repay that debt my entire life. I commissioned as a Special Operations Officer from the United States Naval Academy. As a Navy diver, I led underwater missions across the world. As an EOD technician, I defused bombs for our SEAL teams and Special Forces teams in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia. I spent several tours in the Pentagon, writing requirements and later programming the Navy's budget. I saw firsthand the breakdown of our acquisitions process, which precludes us from outpacing our enemies. We're facing the biggest threat since the Cold War. While we're fighting terrorists in the desert, the Chinese have spread across the globe. But their biggest objective is to crush the United States. One thing will stand in their way: our Navy and Marine Corps team. We are America's 911 force, capable of being anywhere at any time as a carrier strike group or as a Marine Air Ground Task Force. The American people have given President Trump a clear mandate to protect our nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. President Trump has empowered everyone in the Department of Defense, from Secretary Hegseth down, to achieve one clear task: peace through strength. If confirmed, I will deliver to the combatant commanders the most lethal Navy and Marine Corps the world has ever seen. But we have a lot of work to do. Years of neglect and mismanagement have resulted in ships that cannot get underway, aircrafts that cannot fly, and submarines that cannot dive, because we chose to defer maintenance as a cost-cutting tool. Military bureaucracy and the acquisitions process have slowed down the production of not only ships and submarines, but also bombs, missiles, and torpedoes. Recruiting and retention fell because we chose to prioritize the individual over unit cohesion. We must restore the warrior spirit that my generation relied on as a core of our ethos. We must restore America's fighting force. Senators, we have a generation eager to serve and sacrifice for this nation. They grew up in the digital age where technology evolved at quantum speed. They deserve the best training and weapons available. Their intrinsic desire to solve problems using technology should not be stifled by red tape. I ask this Congress to embrace bold new ideas and be ready to move out with a purpose. We cannot solve the problems of tomorrow with the solutions of yesterday. Take it from this warrior. War must be the last resort. But if war comes, let it be swift and decisive. If confirmed, I will work with industry to build capacity in ship, aircraft, and submarine production. And where capacity falls short, our capabilities in electronic warfare and hypersonic weapons will overcome. Our military, if confirmed, I will honor the sacrifice of America's sons and daughters by ensuring they have every tool necessary to be the deadliest threat to our enemies. And to our enemies and those who mean to do us harm, you can run, but you'll only die tired. And to my fellow sailors and Marines, know this: I'm never above you, never below you. I'm always beside you. Semper Fi and Hoo-yah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Count. We'll proceed in this order for our remaining witnesses. Mr. Dodd next, then Mr. Hurst, then Mr. Ingraham, then Mr. Gillis. So, Mr. Dodd, you're now recognized.
Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm honored to be President Trump's nominee for Assistant Secretary of Defense for Critical Technologies. I'm grateful for the opportunity to potentially continue to serve my country, but I'm also humbled by the awesome challenges and opportunities we face as a nation. Chairman Wicker, you have regularly stated that the United States faces the most dangerous security environment since World War II. Those of us who have committed our professional lives to national security know your words are not hyperbole. When people ask me whether it is really as bad as people say, I respond, it's worse than you can imagine. The People's Republic of China is performing, quite frankly, the unprecedented. While some talk about the PRC's theft of our intellectual property and investing adversarial capital into non-traditional companies with compelling technologies, which are both true, the PRC is also innovating, testing, producing, and operationalizing critical technologies at a pace and scale never seen before. They are simultaneously modernizing every prong of combat power, their naval forces, their air forces, their missile forces, their nuclear forces, and their missile defenses, to name just a few. The PRC's military modernization and buildup is being executed with speed and purpose. We must be ready. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made the department's mission clear. We will achieve peace through strength, deter major conflict by maintaining a technological superiority, and a force to fight to win decisively. We will restore the warrior ethos, rebuild our military, and reestablish deterrence. The office to which I've been nominated is relatively new. It is charged, quite simply, to set the technology vision for an era of competition. If confirmed, the department's technology vision will be to dramatically accelerate technology transition. I will work relentlessly to ensure the critical technologies our warfighters need are in their hands as quickly as humanly possible. We will do this by focusing on 3 strategic priorities. First, support defense acquisition reform to deliver state-of-the-art capabilities at speed, relevance, and scale. The President's executive order to modernize defense acquisition and spur innovation are consistent with many of the defense acquisition reforms under consideration by this committee. I will coordinate within the department, with the military services, and with this committee to cut red tape and preserve the technological supremacy of our warfighters, to do business at the speed of business. Second, strengthen the department's adoption of critical technologies in fields like artificial intelligence, microelectronics, quantum science, space-based systems, or hypersonics. We must close that gap. We will do it not by slowing down innovation, but creating new innovation on-ramps and levering the existing innovation on-ramps. We will identify operational problems to solve, and we will perform rapid prototyping and fielding. We must enable our warfighters to access the best technologies not years from now, but when they need them most, today, tomorrow. Finally, we will plan for transition at the outset of every technology project. Each project will be tied to a military service or program gap. Our technology development and transition offices will operate with the understanding that the military services are our customers. We will serve the military services priorities. We will support the warfighters by working with the warfighters. The United States is at an inflection point. Our ability to shape the future depends on whether we can harness innovation faster and more effectively than our adversaries. We must act boldly, decisively, and wisely. We must take calculated risks, but must remain anchored in our values. If entrusted with your support, I will do my part. We must never lose sight of the fact that at the heart of our national defense are the service members who rely on us to equip them for challenges ahead. To close, I would not be here today without the support of my amazing wife, Melanie, sitting behind me, and who's also a Navy veteran, my sons, Keegan and Carson, my family, mentors, colleagues, and the dedicated professionals I've had the privilege of working alongside throughout my career. I'm especially grateful to those in the Department of Defense and the broader national security community who inspired my commitment to public service. If confirmed, I will give this role my full devotion. Thank you again for your consideration. I welcome your questions and look forward to discussing how I can support the department's mission and serve the American people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dodd. Mr. Hurst, you are recognized.
Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, and distinguished members of the committee, it's an honor to appear before you today as President Trump's nominee to be the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. I'm grateful to the President, Secretary Driscoll, Secretary Hegseth, and Speaker Johnson for their confidence, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve. My family and I owe the U.S. military an enormous debt. Like many Americans, military service brought us into the middle class. It's given us educational opportunities, and it's given us a sense of purpose that's lasted over 3 generations. My grandfather, Sugar, was raised on a farm in Louisiana. He served in the Merchant Marine during World War II. He fought as a U.S. Marine in the Korean War, and he finished up a 20-year career in the Air Force as a non-commissioned officer. My father, Sonny, flew C-130s in the Air Force and was a foreign area officer. I myself commissioned in the Army through ROTC at the College of William & Mary, and I've had the privilege of serving for 17 years as a strategist and military intelligence officer on and off active duty. On 4 occasions, I had the opportunity to deploy to Afghanistan as part of a Special Operations Task Force. And on one of those deployments, I was lucky enough to meet my wife, Elizabeth. That's another thing my family and I owe the military. She has given me 5 beautiful children who are here today, and we're very hopeful that at least one of them will continue on our tradition of service. Perhaps more than any other service, the Army is a people business. We're not platform-centric, we're soldier-centric. And while it's very important that we become a customer of choice for industry, it's equally important we become an employer of choice for the young men and women of the United States. I believe the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs should be laser-focused on this task. We're in a war for talent, and it's a war we need to win. To win this contest, we need to engage in a process of continuous improvement. Our soldiers, civilians, and their families deserve world-class services and talent management practices. The Army must continue to modernize its mechanisms for recruiting and hiring personnel, better match talents with assignments, and continue to improve support for military families, spouses, and their children. At the same time, the Army must also prioritize realistic training. We need our CTCs and our home station training to reflect modern battlefield threats like those seen in Ukraine. We need to improve our practices for building and sustaining readiness, and we need to prepare to conduct a national mobilization if our deterrence ever fails. If confirmed, I commit to working to improve talent management within the Army, quality of service and quality of life for soldiers and civilians, and for preparing our Army to adapt to the changing character of warfare. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Ingraham, your opening statement, sir.
Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, distinguished members of the committee, good morning. I'm honored by the opportunity to appear here today as the nominee to serve as the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. I'm extremely grateful for the trust and confidence placed in me by President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, and Secretary Driscoll by nominee for this critical role. I'd like to begin by thanking the committee for considering my nomination, but more importantly, the bipartisan support you've shown the Department of Defense. Very thankful for the support of my family, my wife Melanie, my children Kyler and Amanda that are here with me today. Very thankful to colleagues and friends and mentors that have guided me through my career. And last but not least, to my parents who are watching from Vermont. Protect those that protect us. It's the motto of the Mine Resistant Ambush Protected Vehicle Program, MRAP, where I first served in the government, where I first encountered the deep patriotism, passion, and professionalism that drives our department's acquisition workforce. Those words have been the North Star that has guided me throughout my career, that drive me to ensure that our warfighters always have a technological advantage on the battlefield with the tools they need to execute the mission and return home safely to their families. I've had the privilege to work at multiple levels of our national security establishment, at field commands executing critical acquisition programs, overseas at combat commands, and at the Pentagon, including my current position of performing the duties of the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment. These experiences, along with my training experiences as an engineer in the automotive industry, shaped and molded me to lead key department missions, spearhead significant interagency efforts, work hand in hand with industry to deliver life-saving equipment, and collaborate on complex multinational efforts with our allies and partners. Secretary Hegseth has charged the Department of Defense to match capabilities to threats and increase lethality across the spectrum of military operations. I am driven to ensure I'll ensure the Army is employing all modern acquisition tools Congress has provided in order to cut red tape and accelerate the pace of delivery of lethal, effective operational capabilities. We're in the middle of a transformation in the way wars are fought and equipped. The convergence of artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, and new manufacturing methods enabled by these technological revolutions. The intersection of R&D and acquisition coming together to rapidly field innovative new systems is more important now than ever, with the many threats we face so rapidly evolving. The acquisition enterprise must provide the speed and flexibility our soldiers need to have decisive advantage today and in the future. I look to strengthen rapid acquisition to deliver capabilities from the factory floor to the front line even faster. If confirmed, it will be my job to enable and equip the Army's transformation by delivering the tools that underpin the Army's force modernization plan and ensure our soldiers never have to experience a fair fight. One of my top priorities is work with the DoD and industry to revive the defense industrial base, which is an essential enabler of our ability to deliver state-of-the-art capabilities at speed and scale. We must secure our domestic supply chains away from adversaries, establish flexible and resilient manufacturing capabilities, and maintain a robust sub-tier supply base. We must attract the most capable and innovative companies while increasing competition, adapt commercial technology, demand modular and open systems, and utilize modern software acquisition authorities to allow for faster integration. We must work closely with industry to unleash the power of American innovation, but we must hold them accountable on delivering the capabilities while being good stewards for the American taxpayer. Finally, none of this is possible without the skilled and mission-oriented defense acquisition workforce. The cadre of Army acquisition professionals is a national strategic asset. I'll focus on recruiting, retaining, and training the right talent. Just like our frontline forces, rely on their professionalism and technical acumen both before and during conflict, where the factory floor can be just as significant as the battlefield. Our soldiers operate where the rubber meets the road, where it all comes down to the individual men and women serving this nation, their bravery, patriotism, and courage. They deserve the very best equipment, training, and support to do the hard jobs that our nation demands of them. If confirmed, my guiding light will be what it's always been, to protect those that protect us. I look forward to your questions today, and if confirmed, to working with Congress, and particularly this committee, to support the United States Army. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, Mr. Gillis, your opening statement.
Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today as President Trump's nominee to serve as the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Installations, Energy, and Environment. First, I want to thank the President for providing me with this opportunity and also thank Secretary Driscoll for his support and trust. This is indeed a high honor and distinct privilege. I have a number of friends and colleagues in attendance today. I thank them for their support, but I would be especially remiss if I did not recognize my wife, Leanne, and my daughter, Ann Bedford, who was born when I was in Iraq, who are here with me today, and my son, Thomas, and my mom, who are watching remotely. I thank them for their love and support, without which I would not be here. For as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be in the U.S. Army and follow the tradition on both sides of my family that includes Captain Thomas Bedford of Virginia in the Revolution, Brigadier General John Mulder Wilson, Medal of Honor winner in the Civil War, Lieutenant Colonel George Gillis in World War I, my grandfathers, both of whom were retired colonels and combat veterans of World War II and Korea. To that end, 30 years ago this summer, I can't believe that math is right, I was an ROTC cadet intern at the Pentagon in the Army Secretariat. But for that experience, I would not have known that there are appointees who carry out the principle of civilian control of the military. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have one of those roles and to increase Army lethality and improve the lives of soldiers and families. Since that internship, I've wanted to return to the Pentagon. Along the way, as an active duty field artillery officer and also having served in the Guard and Reserve in peacetime and in combat, I learned the importance of taking care of soldiers and families. I've seen enough former installations and empty places of the past to know that the Army, as an institution, is nothing without its people, and the IE&E portfolio has a direct impact on them. The IE&E mission set is unique. At the same time, it is broad and deep and enterprise-wide, but also deeply personal to a family trying to get a work order completed in housing, or to a member of Congress advocating for an issue particular to their installation. I appreciate that, and it draws me to the mission. My decade plus of experience in the private sector as a management consultant for electric utilities, as well as my previous service as the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for IE&E and as the Assistant SecDef for sustainment at a time when sustainment included the OSD EI&E portfolio, make me uniquely qualified for this role. We're facing many of the same challenges now that I worked on personally 5 or more years ago, including competing priorities every budget cycle. My preliminary focus areas, if confirmed, and pending input from the Secretary, will be improving soldier and family quality of life, achieving a clean audit opinion, and enhancing installation energy resilience. I think that as important as the what is the how, so I'll share 2 guiding principles. 1, driving value for money. This includes evaluating MILCON and using our authorities to leverage other people's money, such as energy savings performance contracts. And then 2, achieving results. We have to make sure that our actions and our return on investment have demonstrable results. These range from those directly in support of Army priorities like warfighting and delivering combat-ready formations to those specifically related to our environmental commitments around former Army properties. If confirmed, I will commit to being as innovative as I can, as efficiency-minded and results-driven as possible. I've worked with many of you on this committee as well as your colleagues in the full Senate and the House. I've worked with your personal staff, the professional staff of this committee, and others. As I've done before, I commit to partnering with you for the betterment of the Army. If confirmed, it will be my honor to advance the mission of the Army in support of this great nation and in support of the men and women who serve, both military and civilian, their families, and the American people. Thank you again for allowing me to be here today. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gillis. And thank you for mentioning the fact that as an ROTC cadet, you learned in the Pentagon the almost sacred principle of civilian control of the military. It's a tradition that goes back to George Washington, and it's part of the great foundation of our free society and the separation of powers. So thank you for mentioning that. I now move to a series of standard questions that this committee poses to all civilian nominees. And I guess I ask you to answer simultaneously yes or no, and we'll watch the head nods. Have you adhered to applicable laws and regulations governing conflicts of interest?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes, Senator.
Have you assumed any duties or taken any actions that would appear to presume the outcome of the confirmation process?
No,
No,
Chairman.
no, Chairman.
Exercising our legislative and oversight responsibilities makes it important that this committee, its subcommittees, and other appropriate committees of Congress receive testimony, briefings, reports, records, and other informations from the executive branch on a timely basis. Do you agree, if confirmed, to appear and testify before this committee when requested?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes, Chairman.
Do you agree to provide records, documents, and electronic communications in a timely manner when requested by this committee, its subcommittees, or other appropriate committees of Congress, and to consult with the requester regarding the basis for any good faith delay or denial in providing such records?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes, Chairman.
Will you ensure that your staff complies with deadlines established by this committee for the production of reports, records, and other information, including timely responding to hearing questions for the record?
Yes,
Yes,
Chairman.
Chairman.
Will you cooperate in providing witnesses and briefers in response to congressional requests?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes, Chairman.
Will those witnesses and briefers be protected from reprisal for their testimony or briefings?
Yes,
Yes,
Chairman.
Chairman.
Thank you very much. And now I guess the timekeeper can start the clock because these questions will be coming on during my 5 minutes. First question is about reconciliation. Much of the funding in the Defense Reconciliation Bill is unspecific because of House and Senate rules and will technically be at the discretion of the department, though the Congress will write specific recommendations for the funding items. A quick yes or no, which has received affirmative answer from each witness who has come before us this year. A quick yes or no question to each of you. Do you commit to follow the Congress's spending recommendations in the Defense Reconciliation unequivocally? Mr. Hurst.
Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Cow.
Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Dodd.
Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Ingraham.
Yes, Chairman.
And Mr. Gillis.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very, very much. Now, Mr. Cow, let me explore with you. I understand from our previous conversation that you have read over the Forged Act, which I helped author. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman.
And I hope you're enthusiastic about it. Let me ask you, of course, the idea is to make acquisition more modern, flexible, and effective for our warfighters. The Forged Act is designed to ensure that the program manager cannot be overruled by low-level career bureaucrats. If confirmed, would you would oversee Forged Act reforms, which are proposed to improve naval acquisition. How would you align authorities to get our acquisition programs back on track?
Thank you for that question, Chairman. We need acquisition reform. I mean, the way the military has been working is not working, and that's why we we are falling short on ship and submarine production. And if confirmed, I plan to oversee this and make sure that we are on track and that we don't have any impediments on acquisitions and shipbuilding.
Let me give you an example. The technical warrant holders in charge of design and engineering led to numerous change orders on the Constellation-class frigate that reportedly reduced its design commonality with the parent ship, which started out at 85%, down to just 15% in common. This is not untypical. Can we count on you to combat this and to get us back to where we need to be?
Yes, Chairman. Just like we discussed in your office, there is ways for us to keep those tech warrant holders accountable.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Gillis, we have placed in the NDAA, in the FY25 NDAA, a provision that would require the department to budget the commercial industry standard minimum 4% plant replacement value by the year 2030. We want to get to 4% by 2030 by starting the budgeting now and ramping up to 2030. Do you understand that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do.
Okay, we've led the charge on this, and you know, there's so many needs out there that all 5 of you have outlined, that this gets ignored over time. So the reason that we put this in on a bipartisan, bicameral basis is that a change needs to be made, and we need to pay attention to the failing facilities that our servicemen need. So if confirmed, will you ensure that this law is enforced, and will you commit to this committee to report to Congress if there are those in the department that are knowingly refusing to follow the law or not following the law for whatever reason?
Mr. Chairman, I welcome that guidance in the NDAA. As you know, it's a knife fight for budget in the Pentagon every day, and that gives me, as the advocate for Army installations, ammunition that helps me in that fight.
And
So yes, sir.
that's exactly how it's intended. Thank you very much, Senator Reid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And gentlemen, thank you for your testimony. Mr. Dodd, the administration is in the process of reducing personnel in the Department of Defense, allowing early retirements, many times not evaluating the need for the individual, just simply wanting to clear a space. Based on these current challenges, how do you plan to ensure the department has the needed technical skills and sufficient personnel to do what you're going to do, which is a revolution, if you will, in terms of the way we do business?
Thank you, Senator Reid, for your question, and I appreciated the time to sit with you and your office and the staff. I think there's a couple things to kind of weigh in here. So as the department is going through a workforce optimization effort, as that flows down into, if confirmed, the critical technologies portfolio, I would have some unique hiring authorities to actually identify and onboard some of the most technical experts in certain topic areas to represent the department in those topic areas. Additionally, with my work currently in the Defense Innovation Unit and the engagement with over 50 Tier 1 research universities, I would expect that engagement to continue and that collaboration to continue at scale as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ingraham, you are going to be one of the key drivers of the Army Transformation Initiative. That is becoming one of the, if not, then one of the most important elements of the new Army approach. And the Army has acknowledged its own need to become a better customer, and which comes down to requirements in many cases. So what are you going to do to make the Army a better customer with regard to requirements?
Senator, I think we have an incredible opportunity to implement ATI, the Army Transformation Initiative, to optimize and be more efficient with how we think about capabilities required on the battlefield. Very quickly, we need to get after aligning not only resources, but our acquisition authorities to the right requirements. And so implementing things like configuration steering boards will give us a great opportunity to ensure that we are aligning those capabilities and ensuring we are absolutely getting the right capability in the soldiers' hands fast. Along with the transformation and contact capabilities that the Army is actually employing, it allows us to get the capabilities quicker into the hands of the soldiers faster so that we can ensure that as we're going through the requirements process, we're delivering the right capabilities.
And related to this is the sense of right to repair all the new equipment the Army buys. I presume that's going to be written, hopefully it's written in every contract, because I can't see contractors going by submarine to the Philippines to replace a screw on a machine. So is that part of your mandate also?
Senator, absolutely. We need right to repair on every capability. And so ensuring we get the right data rights and intellectual property written in the contract up front is absolutely critical.
Thank you. Mr. Gillis, you are committed to addressing the shortfalls in housing and barracks. That's the quality of life issue, probably the most central one in most families' lives. However, as I indicated in my opening statement, the Army just submitted a reprogramming request to divert $1.1 billion of FSRM funding to send it to the border. How are you going to deal with the housing crisis when the money is going elsewhere?
Ranking Member Reed, I share your concern and focus on housing and quality of life initiatives. I was not part of those budget decisions, but I can assure you that going forward, I will advocate unequivocally to be sure that we fund FSRM and MILCON to meet the requirements that we have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cow, the Secretary has shown great vision and purpose in getting after this shipbuilding issue, particularly submarines, which I encourage him and you. I hope you will be sharing his activities, his attention, and his, in a way, passion for getting our ships back on time and on schedule.
I will, Ranking Member Reed, but also we need sailors to go on those ships. We need munitions, and we need the right maintenance for them too.
Thank you very much. My time is expiring. Mr. Hurst, I will send you some questions in written form. Congratulations. I'm impressed with your performance to date and your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Reed. Senator Rounds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, let me say thank you to all of you for your previous service, also your offer to serve once again. And I also want to thank you and your families. It's sometimes forgotten that when you go on deployment or when you offer your service, the families also participate in that, and that when you're away, they're without you. And we appreciate what it takes for that family to hang together and what it means to the entire family. So we thank all of you as well for the offer of your spouse or your family member here to participate in service to this country. So thank you all. Mr. Cow, Mr. Dodd, and Mr. Ingraham, I've heard from 28 senior DoD officials in hearings over the past 2 years, including the Secretary of Defense, every service chief, and 8 combatant commanders, that sharing the 3.1 to 3.45 gigahertz band would have extremely deleterious and costly effects on our warfighting capabilities. The Department of the Navy alone estimates that relocating their systems to different spectrum band would cost them $250 billion. Secretary Hegseth has said that he would go to the mat when necessary for spectrum capabilities he believes are an absolute requirement for the DoD and men and women in uniform. Just simply because I want to make it very clear to everybody listening in how critical this is. If confirmed, Mr. Cow, Mr. Dodd, and Mr. Ingraham, if confirmed, will you fight to defend the Department of Defense's access to the use and maneuver within the electromagnetic spectrum at home and abroad? Mr. Cow?
Yes, Senator.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes, Senator.
Mr. Ingraham?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. I cannot overemphasize how critical it is with the use of spectrum and the need to protect our young men and women. There are parts of this which are used in our radar systems and in our communications. Literally, if we lose that, people die. And it is critical that we allow for the Department of Defense to have access to that portion of the spectrum for their needed defensive capabilities. Mr. Dodd, trusted artificial intelligence and assured access to the electromagnetic spectrum are both foundational to our ability to compete with China in future conflicts. How will you drive integration of AI into operational systems, and what barriers to transition do you believe require the most urgent attention?
Senator, thank you for the question. I think initially I would look to utilize some of the existing tools and authorities, if confirmed, that would exist inside of critical technologies. Section 217 clearly outlines the efforts within critical technologies to create those technology roadmaps with the services, with the Unified Combatant Commands, and influence and advocate an engagement with the services when they get into the program objective memorandum or the POM cycle for budgeting against those technology requirements. So they're getting heavily involved in there. And the impediments, which I think we're going to hear several times today, is this acquisition reform and the ability to utilize other transaction authorities and existing statutory authorities so that we can identify and acquire technologies at speed, relevance, and scale.
And I think what you've indicated in terms of the challenge with regard to acquisitions is probably one of the most important things that we're going to have to do. I'm going to go to that next, but I just want to no question, artificial intelligence is here. It's here to stay. It's not going away. And it will either be used on us or we will use it to our advantage. Fair statement?
Senator, absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Ingraham, the time it takes for the Army acquisition programs to reach operational use is simply incompatible with the pace of modern conflict. What reforms would you pursue to compress acquisition timelines, reduce risk aversion in procurement, and better leverage private sector innovation?
Senator, I agree we can always do better when it comes to acquisition. So a number of the acquisition reforms and fully the implementation of the adapted acquisition framework that allows all the authorities that Congress has provided to fully utilize all of the resources we have. That starts with reducing barriers to entry as we bring in new entrants into the into the acquisition system, ensuring that we are providing really clear requirements, but not overly burdensome requirements, in quickly getting those capabilities into the hands of the warfighter that will allow us to continually refine through things like open architectures that will allow us to make sure the right capability is delivered as fast as possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Rounds. Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to each of you. So I start with asking the following two, I consider foundational questions of every nominee for before any of the committees on which I sit to ensure the fitness of the nominee to serve. So I'll start with a response from Mr. Hurst, and we'll just go right down the line. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
For Dr. Gillis, Dr. Gillis, the lack of affordable housing remains a perennial, basically, and a persistent problem in Hawaii where housing costs are extremely high. and affordability of housing is a huge challenge. And I believe that the DoD can play a bigger role in helping to address this issue by basically creating housing for the personnel. So some 50% of 40% of military personnel currently live off base. So would you deem this to be an issue that you would like to do something about to alleviate the housing shortage by creating housing for your personnel?
Senator,
And how would
first,
you go about doing that?
Senator, first, I can't take the promotion to doctor. I am
Oh.
merely an honorable or former assistant secretary. But to your question, I absolutely agree. And if confirmed, I would commit to looking at what the balance is between on-installation housing, and if we can bring more soldiers and families onto installations, would take measures to do that, certainly.
So would you commit to working with the Hawaii delegation to address the issue of more housing provided by the Navy for your personnel?
Senator, I do, not just on housing, but with Army land leases in Hawaii. It was on a trip to Hawaii where I got to sit next to you at the ribbon cutting at the Schofield Generating Station that I really learned to appreciate the importance of Hawaii to Army operations. So I do commit to work with you and your staff.
Yes, needless to say, and I know that you acknowledge the importance of all of our leases, particularly Pohakaloa. For Mr. Kyle, the Navy is currently building a critical new dry dock at Pearl Harbor to support Virginia-class submarine maintenance, and I know that maintenance of our ships is a priority for you. And this construction project is the largest in DoD history at nearly $4.5 billion, but it has faced significant cost overruns, including in the first year of construction, a cost increase of $834 million in just 1 year. How do you plan to ensure dry dock construction remains on time and on budget? And will you consider this construction to be a critical priority for you, should you be confirmed?
Senator, thank you very much for that question. It is near and dear to my heart. The workforce in Hawaii is unmatched right now of all the public shipyards that we have. And so you have my commitment that when, if confirmed, I will go in and look at the cost overruns and keep the cost overruns under control.
I was at the opening, really, of this construction, and I had said in my remarks that I hope that this project can come in on time, on budget, and before I could practically blink, there was a $800 million increase. So this is going to require, I would say, oversight from you to make sure that things are on time and on budget. For Mr. Gillis, Army installations in Hawaii have a number of infrastructure-related problems, from fragile electrical grids and water systems to aging barracks and other facility-related maintenance issues. And we know that 50% of Army facilities in Hawaii are categorized as failed or failing, with a backlog cost to repair of $5.6 billion. So these issues negatively impact military readiness and quality of life for our soldiers and their families. So what will you do in terms of the infrastructure needs in Hawaii to prioritize these needs?
Senator, I agree with you about the importance of this issue. I think that this is what is beginning to be a good news story, and if you could just spot me a few seconds, Mr. Chairman. For instance, the Army is working to privatize the electric infrastructure in Hawaii in partnership with HECO, with Hawaii Electric.
In Kalailoa, I know.
Exactly right. And I think that approach is a good way forward to get folks whose core business it is to maintain and plan for the improvements necessary for that infrastructure.
I will hold you to, especially that Kalailoa, formerly Barbers Point, that was a BRAC. I will hold you to making sure that we get that project done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hirono. Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to all of you guys for stepping up and willing to serve in these capacities. It's challenging times and a lot of changes for the better. And unfortunately, a lot of roles you guys are stepping in, change isn't exactly easy. It's tough. So with that, Mr. Cow, can you explain to me why you're taking on this role and responsibility?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I came to this country with nothing as a refugee, and we grew up in Africa, actually. And in 1979, when the Shah of Iran was overthrown, the Marines brought us into the embassy and stood watch over us in case they had to do a naval evacuation. And the look in their eyes that night that said, nothing's going to hurt you, not tonight, not on my watch. I want to be like those heroes. So I dedicated my entire life to serving in the military. Right now, my son is a senior at the Naval Academy. In 11 months, he will be commissioned as an officer. I don't want him to go to war the way I did, where we used our body armors to put it between the doors to protect us. We were lucky enough to have body armor. That's not going to happen to my son, and that's not going to happen to any American sons and daughters. Not on my watch, sir.
Thank you. We have real issues going on with shipbuilding. We're behind. We can't seem to get anything out of dry dock, much less get something out of from conception to delivery. How do we fix this?
Senator, I've been studying this issue, and I have 10 different levers that I want to provide to you and the president in order to get shipbuilding going. But we also have to remember that we need to maintain those ships, and we need to man those ships, and we need the weapons to go on those ships. So it's a four-pronged problem that we need to address. And if confirmed, I will look into all these issues, present all the solutions to the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Navy, as well as this body.
Should we be trying to refit the current platforms, or should we be trying to embrace new technology and new platforms, and maybe rethink the way we're having naval warfare to begin with?
Senator, absolutely. We need to rethink naval warfare. We need to use what we already have, because the war could be any day. I mean, we live every day as if it's September 10th, 2001. So we need to be ready for what happens tomorrow. And that means we need to maintain our ships. We need to have the electronic warfare systems on board to fight off any hypersonic weapons. We also need to accelerate shipbuilding as well.
Thank you. Mr. Gillis, the United States has an abundant amount of natural gas, and same thing with Oklahoma. And when we start talking about Army installations, how do we become energy resilient if we have burdensome regulations that prevent us from moving forward?
Senator Mullen, I think you're exactly right. The more we can bring on-site generation and on-site power sources to Army installations, the more resilient they are. We've got at least one use case where we're currently extracting natural gas on an installation for that purpose. And I think that's a great use case and would like to be able to see it expanded, and would love to work with you to make sure that we have the authorities to do that.
Yeah, what type of legislation do you need? We've looked in this before. I mean, we just talked about in McAllister, the munition depot there has a tremendous amount of resources under the ground. And you look at the paperwork that it takes to do it, it's nearly impossible. So how can we help you be successful in this?
Senator, appreciate that offer, and if confirmed, I will take you up on that, and we'll have the team look deeply into that issue and let you know exactly how we could use some help.
Thank you. Chairman, I'm going to yield back some time.
Thank you very much, Senator. Senator Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to my colleagues and those who are here, I've been in the Senate now coming up on 13 years, and the best part of the job is being on this committee, by far. When everything else is not going well, being on this committee is the best part of the job. It's the best part of the job because my colleagues are rock solid. We have plenty of disagreements, but we work very, very closely together. The week after the 4th of July, we'll mark up the defense bill. We sit around the table. We're the only committee that does this. We sit around the table until every last member has offered every last amendment, and there's nothing left to offer. And then we end up with a bill that even if you lose an amendment or two, everybody has their fingerprints on it. We usually vote it out 25-2 or 26-2. My colleagues are good. The staff is fantastic. But the important part of it is the mission. It's our troops. Virginia, I'm going to make a claim, and other senators will challenge me in a virtuous competition, but I'm going to claim we are the most pro-military state in this country. About 1 out of 10 Virginians is a veteran. Then there's active, then there's Guard, then there's Reserve, then there's DOD civilians, then there's DOD contractors and military families like mine. It's such serious stuff. It's such serious stuff. I was very, very disturbed yesterday, and this is not going to be a question for any of you. This is really just for this gathering. I was so disturbed yesterday when the commander-in-chief of the greatest nation on this planet posted a music video, bomb, 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 bomb Iran, bomb, 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 bomb Iran, went to a mosque, gonna throw some rocks, time to turn Iran into a parking lot. Music video with bombers flying behind residential buildings. It had another line in it about sending the Ayatollah home in a box. I mean, is this the way? Is this the way we ought to treat war in this country? I mean, is it just a big joke? 40,000 troops are deployed in the Middle East right now. They're all on high alert because of what's going on in the Middle East. I've got people all over Virginia who are worried about, are they going to get deployed? Are their kids going to get deployed? Are we going to be in a third war in the Middle East in the last 20 years? And we've got a commander-in-chief putting up stuff like this. When I came to the Senate, I served first under a Democratic president, then under President Trump, then under a Democratic president, then again under President Trump. And I came with the view that war was too serious an issue to be left to one person. I deeply believe what the framers of our Constitution believe, that the matter is so serious and so consequential that it shouldn't be left to one person. That we should only be at war if Congress has a serious and deliberative process about that. And I have a resolution that will likely be voted on to that effect in the next couple of days. But I just wanted to begin with this. Let's take this seriously. I think the committee takes it seriously. I think the American public takes it seriously. I know Virginians who are in the military or whose family are in the military take it seriously. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Secretary Gillis, let me ask you this. We had the person that is currently serving as acting in the position for which you've been nominated before us in the Readiness Subcommittee yesterday. Senator Sullivan and Hirono held a hearing, and I asked them about UAS issues. We've got major challenges with U.S. incursions on our bases, Army bases and others. We had an incursion at the base, the Langley base, 19 months ago. We still haven't gotten good answers for it. The Army is playing kind of a lead role in this. They are the executive agent, and NORTHCOM is the lead synchronizer in the kind of all-stakeholder group as we're trying to figure out how to stop UAS incursions on our bases. Talk to me about how you would prioritize this should you be confirmed.
Senator, I watched that hearing with great interest, and I thought that Dr. Waxman did a great job, and I'll reiterate a few points. I mean, first, there's the technological piece. We have to figure out whether it's kinetic or non-kinetic and how we balance the security and installation with the safety of the adjacent public. And then there's the authorities piece. So having looked into this a little bit before when I was in the seat, we've got to coordinate and be sure that we have the right authorities with respect to the FAA and the FCC so that we can take the actions that we need to take. But agree with you that it is a very important and alarming issue and commit to looking into that and continuing to drive the Army's efforts.
Yield back.
It is an issue that needs a good bit of attention. Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cal, thank you for taking on this challenge and for your inspiring story. You demonstrate to this committee and to this country the value that immigrants and refugees can play in the future of our country, and you're a walking statement of that of that fact. I want to just emphasize something that you mentioned in your opening statement, and that is maintenance. It's the most boring topic of all, but as you correctly point out, one of our major problems is availability. We all talked about AI. I did a little AI work this morning. The average availability of Navy ships is in the range of 60%. It depends on which ship, but some are below 50, some are in the range of 65 or 70, but generally between 50 and 60%. The availability of Carnival Cruise Line ships is 91%. If Carnival Cruise Line ships were available 60% of the time, they'd be out of business. I hope that you'll carry through on what you suggest in your opening testimony and really get after this issue of maintenance and availability. I challenge you to come back to this committee in a couple of years and tell us we're benchmarking against Carnival Cruise Lines.
Thank you for that, Senator. Yes, we are a maritime nation. We depend on the seas for trade, and right now we're deficit in not just commercial ships. I think there's less than 80 flagged U.S. ships. There's less than 129 military Sea Level Command ships, and our fleet is, less than 400 ships right now, and or actually less than 300 ships. And we need a stronger Navy in order to maintain the freedom of the seas.
I agree with that. We're not building enough ships, but we're also not keeping the ships that we have in service. I take it you agree with that.
Yes, Senator. The ASABO, or the operational availability, is pretty horrid on a lot of ships.
I'll look forward to tracking that with you as time goes on. Mr. Dodd, you have, I think, one of the most important jobs in the Pentagon, which is technology. The adaptation of new technology is what wins wars. Genghis Khan was able to conquer the world because of his utilization of the stirrup, which enabled his archers to shoot from horseback, and it was that technology that enabled him. The longbow at the Battle of Agincourt enabled 6,000 British troops to defeat an army of 20,000 French. I'm worried, and you mentioned several technologies in your testimony, but we've basically been slow on several technologies. We've been slow on drones, on hypersonics, and particularly on directed energy, which you didn't mention. But in the age of drones, directed energy can be more important than ever. The prior administration woefully underfunded the development of directed energy. I hope that's something that you will pursue in your new position.
Senator, thank you for raising that very important issue. And if confirmed, directed energy would be a technology area in the critical technologies portfolio. I'm a staunch advocate and believer, as you referenced, in a one-to-many response in utilizing many faster, cheaper platforms, and certainly in the counter-UAS domain. Directed energy will play a critical role in that. High-performance microwaves are making some significant advances. Those platforms have already been prototyped. They're being tested currently. So we are excited to, again, if confirmed, see the growth and scaling of directed energy platforms.
Well, I'd point out in the Red Sea today, we're shooting down $20,000 Yemeni and Iranian drones with $4 million missiles. That's unsustainable, and a shot from a directed energy is about 75 cents. So this is urgent, and I hope it is pursued not only systematically, but also with some urgency.
Senator, fully commit to pursuing directed energy platforms if confirmed.
Thank you. Mr. Ingraham, logistics, acquisition, and technology. One of the hidden issues there is industrial base. And everybody that comes before this committee talks about rebuilding the industrial base. And part of that is workforce. The industrial base can't grow and support what we need with the limited workforce that we have now. So I hope that will be a significant part, because you can't do acquisition if you don't have people to acquire the products from. Is industrial base part of what you view as your mission?
Senator, absolutely. The industrial base is absolutely critical, and ensuring that we have a strong industrial base is fundamental to acquisitions, as you mentioned. I think a number of key things, if confirmed, I would want to make sure we're doing is first understanding where those critical gaps are in our industrial base. We've got to map that industrial base. starting right from the mine all the way to the factory floor to where we see in the value stream. We need to ensure we're adding some resilience and some strength to our
I
industrial
would
base.
suggest that one important provision here, one important initiative is a steady demand signal. We can't expect our private sector contractors to make major investments unless they know they're going to be able to sell their products. So multi-year contracting and a steady demand signal is important. They're not going to invest if it's going to be turned off and on and they don't know if they're going to have the business a year or two later. So I hope you'll consider that as well.
Senator, absolutely. Multi-year procurements has been critical, especially in the munitions space where we're ensuring that we drive that constant demand signal.
And it saves the taxpayers money. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator King. Senator Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dodd, great to see you here today. Congratulations on your important nomination. Once you're confirmed, you're going to be in charge of a number of critical technology areas, including hypersonics, that you're going to help oversee. America still has not deployed a hypersonics weapon, and our adversaries are already ahead of us in this important area. We need to get these weapons out of the lab and into the field. Can you tell us today how you're going to help do that?
Senator, thank you for that extremely important question, and your compelling work in this topic, especially with Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane Division and their development of the hypersonic technologies. As you referenced, the United States currently is behind our adversaries, most notably China, in this technology domain. There are a couple of underway efforts in my sister organization, JIF confirmed, in Science and Technology, the Joint Hypersonics Transition Office, and in the Mission Capabilities Office would be the MACH-TB program, which you have been a staunch advocate for in the testing and evaluating on a much more rapid time and scale, and that is needed. And so for us to catch up in hypersonics is utilization of those programs and furthering the development, testing, and deployment of hypersonic technologies.
Can you explain the MACH-TB program to the committee and talk about why it's so important?
Yes, Senator Banks, thank you for that. So the MACH-TB program, again, would reside in the mission capabilities portfolio, but it is the rapid testing and evaluating of the hypersonic technologies and reducing the cost by which we're looking to deploy these technologies as well.
And what else can we do when it comes to research and development for hypersonics? I mean, what else is out there that we're not doing, that we can be doing, that you're going to push for?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I think the additional efforts, if confirmed, are going to be to get in and utilize some of the existing authorities and successes that that exist currently in the critical technology portfolio in hypersonics. So the utilization of the other transaction authority, the ability to identify, vet, procure, get on contract, and deploy those technologies at speed, relevance, and scale.
Okay. Another area that you're going to help oversee is microelectronics. Places like Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane that you've already mentioned in Indiana are critical to making sure that the DoD has secure access to safe and reliable microelectronics. How can we further strengthen our secure microelectronics supply chain at the DoD?
Again, thank you for that question, Senator Banks. Also, Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane Division as an anchor mission partner in the Trusted and Assured Microelectronics at Microelectronics Commons. Not widely known, but scary, is by some accounts as much as 10% of microelectronics in the United States are counterfeit, corrupt, or malicious. Both of those programs address the gap in our security in identifying and deploying trusted assured microelectronics into all of our systems, again, foundational in everything that we have.
Mr. Cal, Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane that we've just been talking about for the last 3 minutes is the crown jewel of Indiana's defense industry and our defense assets. I hope that you'll take some time to come visit after you're confirmed. It would be very important to have us host you as the Undersecretary of the Navy. As you may know, Crane has a key role in Navy hypersonics and in the Navy's new nuclear sea-launched cruise missile, also known as SLCM-N. Mr. Cow, how important are these programs to deterring conflict with China?
Thank you for that question, Senator. CPS, or conventional prompt strike, is extremely important. I moved that budget line when I was in the Navy from OSD AT&L to the Navy in 2017, and we still have not developed CPS. It was supposed to be developed within the FIDIP. So that is extremely critical. As for the SLCM N, again, we need every piece of that nuclear triad to be operational, and so, yes, sir, I would love to visit Crane, Indiana.
Thank you. We look forward to hosting you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Senator Schmidt, you are now recognized, and also you hold the gavel.
Oh, wow.
I have to leave for another hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Cowell, I wanted to ask you, as relates to the Navy, I was thrilled, obviously, to see that the Air Force, President Trump announced the F-47 is moving forward, the next generation fighter that I think is particularly important as we continue to pivot to China, the Indo-Pacific. It can see further, go faster, bigger payloads. There's a lot of reasons why it's a very important platform for us, which gets us into the Navy with the potential FA-XX next-gen fighter that would be carrier-based. How do you view that? Why is that important? And what advantages can we gain from having a next-gen fighter on those carriers?
Thank you for that question, Senator. The carrier is 99,000 tons of American diplomacy. It can be anywhere at any time. With the Air Wing on board is the 7th largest air force in the world. And so we absolutely need a 6th-generation aircraft to be on those aircraft carriers in order to, push our American diplomacy and secure the seas for allies and our friends.
As you see it right now, what are some of the challenges that might exist that the Navy might need to overcome? I mean, there is some money in here to move forward in the reconciliation bill, but what challenges do we need to overcome to make sure that happens?
Senator, it's the bureaucracy, it's the tech warrant holders, as Senator or as Chairman Wicker had mentioned. It's a lot of people that are saying no. One person should only say no, and that should be the Secretary of the Navy. And along the way, each person can assume the risk and move out, or they push it up to the next level. But we need to move out, and we need 6th-generation aircrafts.
Well, I agree. So look forward to working with you to help maybe cut through some of that bureaucratic no we hear right now and make sure that we actually get this thing done. Mr. Hurst, I wanted to ask you, as it relates to military base defense, anybody who watched anything related to what the Ukrainians and that drone attack in Russia can understand, and we've heard about it a lot in open and classified settings for sure, but I think that really brings home the capabilities that are out there and that exist, which then leads to sort of our defense of that. How are you looking at the evolution of installation security in the modern era, given the potential risk from drone strikes?
Well, Senator, thank you for that question. I think the proliferation of small unmanned aerial systems has democratized air power, that anybody can afford it now. And I think it's a key readiness issue that we quickly field commercial technologies that are ready to counter that. We include this in our training exercises, and we work with the FAA and other authorities that allow us to fully utilize capabilities to stop these threats.
It's my view that the commercial sector is already they've already produced a lot of these tools that can be used, and kind of getting back to some of the cultural shift I think that needs to happen. Oftentimes, the private sector has been asked, or they just do it, create a solution, but sort of the government procurement folks or the requirements that are put in place, especially as it relates to drones. I mean, they're outdated in 6 months, right? But as far as relates to drone defense, a lot of that technology is already out there. And I think, unfortunately, the Air Force has been really flat-footed on this. I think as relates to, we've got, of course, Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, the Army. We've got Whiteman, which has clearly been in the news, given what happened over the weekend with the B-2s. This is one of those things that we have got to be nimble with. And so the private sector, I've met with some of them, they have the capabilities. They have the ability to detect, disarm, and if ultimately take down these sort of drone strikes and even mass drone strikes or swarms. But we're still kind of, I feel like we're a little bit stuck in this bureaucratic maze. What do you think what can be done to cut through that? Because I think everyone recognizes the capabilities and the problems, but we're still here. You know, we're still here.
Senator, I think this is an issue that I would own if confirmed with several other people in this panel. But one thing I think the department could explore is contracting for things as a service. Have Canary US as a service to get a jump start on this and test out things faster.
Okay. I look forward to working with that. Thank you. Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ingraham, actually to all 5 of you, congratulations on your nominations. And thank you for your service and your future service. Mr. Ingraham, thank you for meeting with me earlier this week. I want to follow up on our discussion about electronic warfare. As the Assistant Secretary for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology, you'll be responsible for the entire research, development, and acquisition lifecycle of Army platforms and warfare systems. And I appreciate you sharing with me your experience in Afghanistan about how important it is for our service members to get the best equipment possible. That is critical. In the acquisition cycle, can you tell me how important you think it is in the developmental testing and evaluation step is developmental testing and evaluation?
Senator, I appreciate the question and absolutely enjoyed the time and the discussions we were able to have in your office beforehand. Development testing is absolutely critical. As we started talking a lot about electronic warfare, especially in the electronic warfare space. We need to ensure that our capabilities that can be the most effective in a electromagnetic spectrum that the operators can't see. Our soldiers aren't going to be able to see the electronic warfare effects that are being placed against them. And so having that capability to counter those electronic warfare methods will absolutely be critical.
Yeah, I would argue that we're doing a disservice to our service members to turn over systems to them before it's gone through a complete DT evaluation, cycle, because you're not going to figure out problems with the systems without doing that. So I'm concerned about proposed cuts that would disproportionately affect the electronic proving ground. The electronic proving ground at Fort Huachuca provides the unique capability to execute electronic warfare developmental testing without the interference due to geography. It sits in a bowl with mountains basically on all sides. It also benefits from an ideal climate, 320 flying days per year. It's federally protected airspace, which further minimizes the interference. So it allows some very aggressive, offensive EW jamming tests to really flush out the systems in a developmental test program. Other Army test and evaluation commands, so ATEC proving grounds, simply cannot provide the same kind of environment. So that would lead us, without the ability to fully test our capabilities and train our soldiers and pilots how to use them and counter our adversaries. And what I'm getting at is the cuts that are proposed for the electronic proving ground. It's going to have some long-term consequences if the staff at EPG is significantly reduced. Normally when we want to look at an organization and make some cuts because we think there's too much overhead involved, I think the appropriate thing to do is look at the entire organization. At EPG, the folks that they're looking at eliminating are the ones that are actually doing the work, the developmental testing work that is key to making sure our electronic warfare systems are going to work effectively in a real-world environment. So, if confirmed, would you be willing to work with me on trying to prevent these unnecessary cuts at EPG?
Senator, if confirmed, absolutely look forward to working with you on this. We have an incredible opportunity to take the lessons learned from modern warfare, especially as we see what's happening in Ukraine and in Israel right now, where electronic warfare is a critical factor on the battlefield, and ensuring our systems can operate in that environment.
Yeah, I would say especially in the Western Pacific. I mean, we're seeing it in Ukraine right now, but especially in the Western Pacific, in a conflict with China, who controls and can operate in a contested EW environment. It's going to be the key to air superiority, and it's going to be the key to success in, fighting our adversaries. So thank you for your willingness to do that. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to submit a question for the record for Mr. Hurst here. Has to do with training our healthcare workforce within the military and how we can help them transition to careers once they leave their service. Thank you.
Without objection. Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I ask my question, I want to comment the 4 best behaved children in the world are sitting right here. I'm so impressed. Whose children are they?
Those are mine, Senator.
You just earned my vote.
I thank my wife.
Mr. Ingraham, what I want to touch on is when we're purchasing platforms, when we're doing acquisition, we should be acquiring the IP along with the platform so that we can repair, so that we can maintain. It would accelerate the maintenance process. For example, I believe every ship should have a 3D printer. Every depot should have a 3D printer, every hangar, so that we can not, the famous saying, for want of a nail, the shoe was lost, and on from there. So I hope that that can be something that will be part of our routine acquisition process. We not only buy the product, but we buy the rights to repair that product and the IP for how to build those parts, which we can now do. I hope that's something that you'll follow up on.
Senator, absolutely. Right to repair is critical in any one of our platforms, and so ensuring we get the right data rights and the right intellectual property up front in the contracts is actually critical. And I absolutely agree, additive manufacturing, 3D printers is critical as we think about forward, especially on the at the tip of the spear in the front line. I can tell you in a past role inside the Department of Defense, I purchased the first 3D metal printer and implemented it at the Naval Surface Warfare Dahlgren, where we were able to print a number of capabilities that we used very extensively in Afghanistan and Iraq.
So you know that it's not only a savings of money for the taxpayer, but perhaps more importantly, it's a savings of time and could be a savings of lives in particular situations. So I commend you for that and hope that that gospel of right to repair and purchasing the IP will be consistent throughout the acquisition process at the Pentagon. Spread the word, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator King. I'd like to thank our witnesses for your testimony here today, and for information, the members' questions for the record will be due to the committee within 2 business days of the conclusion of this hearing. We are adjourned.